Could it be? But me, your man, Louie T, welcome to a Louie T Live special NFL trade deadline. 4 o'clock p.m. today. Trade deadline will have elapsed, and we will know if there will be any more trades. I have never seen a more active NFL trade deadline. This feels a lot like the NBA, a lot like Major League Baseball, where you expect things to happen. Normally, trade deadline in the NFL is ho-hum. It comes, it goes. No one bats an eye. We keep it moving. Generally, trades don't happen in the NFL midseason. You may get one or two, but we've already had 3 up until this point. 2 happened last night, a big bombshell with Jimmy Garoppolo going from the Pats to the San Francisco 49ers for a second-round pick in the 2018 NFL Draft. And that knocked everybody's socks off. We've been waiting to see what the Patriots would do with Jimmy Garoppolo. Would they re-sign him, which they had tried to do? Would they deal him? A lot of people thought, okay, they haven't dealt him yet. He's probably not going to get dealt. And then boom, trade deadline coming up. 49ers reach out and they get their man for a second-round pick. And it's important to know that that's the second-round pick of the Niners. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on. But then you get, of course, the first trade that kind of started the whole thing off was Dwayne Brown, who coincidentally enough played against the Seahawks on Sunday in that epic 41-38 thriller out in Seattle, is traded back to the Seattle Seahawks, where he just left. He got on a plane, went back to Houston, and then is going to get back on a plane and go back to Seattle, this time permanently, to remain a Seahawk for the remainder of this season. And what we probably think is going to be for the duration of his career. And so that's a big move. We'll talk about that here in a second. And then we had a big one today already. Ajayi going from the Miami Dolphins to the Philadelphia Eagles for a 4th-round pick. We'll talk about that one in detail a little bit later on as well. And then I got a number of rumors and different players that I think could potentially see their name called in a trade before the 4 o'clock deadline. We're approaching the 3 o'clock hour here, Eastern Standard Time. Remember, 4 o'clock in New York, Eastern Standard Time is when this trade deadline is up. So I'll be with you for seemingly the next hour or so, just to make sure nothing else breaks. Maybe I'll get out of here a little sooner than that. We'll see. But in any event, I'll be with you for the majority of this last hour leading up to the end of this trade deadline. And I want to talk to you guys about some of these trades, see how you feel, and talk about some of these players that are potentially on the trading block and see how you feel about potentially some of these players moving teams. And we'll talk about all those things and more here on this program today. So let's get started, and we'll talk about the first trade that kind of started this whole process of players moving teams. And we start here in Seattle with the Seattle Seahawks, who we've always talked about this offensive line and how this offensive line was going to be the detriment of this Seahawks team when it's all said and done. Russell Wilson seems to always be running for his life. They ran, if I'm not mistaken, their 2 running backs, J.D. McKissick and Eddie Lacy, combined for 10 carries for 6 yards rushing on Sunday against the Texans. They're struggling to run the football. That's an understatement with the numbers I just gave you. But if you've been watching this Seattle Seahawks team for any amount of time this year, you know that it's been a struggle for them to run the football. Obviously, the offensive line has a lot to do with that. But also, Russell Wilson hasn't been sacked as much this season because he's healthy and he can actually escape the pocket, make things happen, unlike last year where he was banged up, dealing with a myriad of injuries, couldn't run as much, and so it's easier to go get him. This year, he's able to escape the pocket, be slippery and slithery like we know Russell Wilson to be oftentimes. But yet, there's still a lot of breakdowns. He's not allowed to sit in the pocket and scan the field and make accurate throws from the pocket. Normally, he's got to get out of the pocket to be successful. And they ran a ton of play-action fakes against Houston in that ball game. And they were very successful in doing that, moving the pocket and getting him to a spot where he could be comfortable in delivering the football. But make no mistake about it, if this team wants to maximize the talent that they have offensively, they're going to have to fortify that offensive line. They got some young, good pieces. I've talked about that already. Jermaine Ifedi at right guard. I like him. I like Justin Britt. A guy that is very versatile, can give you some play at center guard and tackle if need be. He's another guy that I think is a very interesting case here in Seattle. You have Ethan Posick, who they drafted out of LSU, another versatile offensive lineman, can play center guard and tackle if need be. So they're fixing this offensive line piece by piece, but they needed a left tackle. That's the most important position on the entire offense. When they go out and they fortify that with the trade for Dwayne Brown, and in exchange for Brown, the Seahawks give up Jeremy Lane, a 5th-round pick in 2018, and a 2nd-round pick in 2019. So a lot to give up, but for a good quality starting left tackle in this league, that's the price you have to pay. And when you're desperate like the Seahawks are, and you think you've got a chance to win a chip, you'll do whatever it takes to put yourself in the best position possible to make that happen. And so for the Texans, you feel good about the haul that you were able to get. Just know that those picks going to be late round picks. That end of that round's picks. So that 5th rounder going to be at the back end of the 5th round. That 2019 2nd rounder, you hope that the Seahawks fall on hard times and that pick is a lot closer to the front of the 2nd round than the end. But we all know the truth. Most likely they're going to be a playoff team next year as well. And so that 2019 pick is probably going to be at the back end of the 2nd round. It doesn't matter. Texans feel good about that 2nd round pick, more so than the 5th rounder in 2018. That was more a filler. And the Texans do need help in the secondary. I talked about how they gave up 41 points in that game and lost to Seattle. They need help in the secondary. Jeremy Lane going to come over there and provide them with a little bit of help. So you get some help now, and you're going to get help in the future by way of those 2 draft picks and that 2nd rounder in 2019, a huge bargaining chip and potentially a really good player that may be coming onto your roster. So they have to feel good with the way they made out. Dwayne Brown was disgruntled, didn't like the situation in Houston, wanted a brand new contract. He's not a big fan of owner Bob McNair, and then he makes the comments that he made with the whole inmates running the prison comment. And Dwayne Brown is one of those very woke individuals. So it wasn't a good situation. That situation seemed to be very toxic. A change of scenery for him was for the best, and I think Dwayne Brown's going to flourish out in Seattle, and I think it's a good move for both parties involved. If you're Seattle, I think you gave up a little bit too much for an aging left tackle, but nonetheless, you needed help right now at that position, and this guy's going to come in and provide you with that immediately. It's a huge upgrade to an offensive line that could use a huge upgrade at the most important position on the entire offensive line. You go to another trade, and this was a big one. On Monday night, we all received word that the Patriots agreed in principle to send quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo to the San Francisco 49ers in exchange for a 2018 2nd-round pick. Now, the important thing to know, 49ers had 2 2nd-round picks. Remember, they made the trade with the Bears, so they also gained a 2nd rounder there. They have 2 2nd-round picks, but it's worth noting that the Patriots wanted the Niners' 2nd-round pick, which we look at the Niners, we look at the Browns, 2 winless teams. We know that those 2 teams are going to be either 1-2 in some capacity. If you're the Patriots, you were smart to go after that 49ers 2nd rounder, because that's in effect an extension of the 1st round. That's going to either be the 33rd pick in the draft or it's going to be the 34th pick in the draft. Either way, it's going to be an extension of the 1st round. You're going to get yourself a damn good football player. And the Patriots, let's face it, they're accustomed to picking at the back end of the 1st round, whether it be 32 because they won the Super Bowl, 31 because they were the runner-up, or 29 or 30 because they made it all the way to the AFC Championship game. Either way, the Patriots are accustomed to selecting players at that back end of the 1st round. The 1st and 2nd picks of the 2nd round are extensions of the 1st round, so this is a great pick for the Patriots. They'll have 2 picks right there at the tail end of the 1st into the 2nd round come next year's draft. And if they want to package something together to move up to get a specific player, they can do so because they'll have the ammunition to do exactly that. So I love the trade for the Patriots because I don't think Garoppolo is going to resign. He understands that Tom Brady's probably got another 3, maybe even 4 years in him. Who wants to sit behind a guy and wait your turn? No one wants to wait their turn when they can get an opportunity to play right now. And so I don't think Garoppolo was going to re-sign with the Patriots. They understood that Garoppolo was on the way out come the offseason, and they weren't going to get anything for him if they allowed him to walk in the offseason. They weren't going to franchise him. They're not going to pay him that kind of money. So you knew if you know how the Patriots operate, you had to know that something was in the works, and it finally happened as we got closer and closer to the trade deadline. 49ers pulled the trigger. There are a number of ramifications to this trade. One, from the Patriots' angle, that means they believe Tom Brady's got a legitimate 3 to 4 years left in him because they traded away Jacoby Brissett. They traded away Jimmy Garoppolo. They currently don't have a backup quarterback. I surmise that the 49ers, who released Billy Ho because of this move, Brian Hoyer, for those of you who don't know who Billy Ho is, they released Billy Ho, did the 49ers, because of the move of getting Jimmy Garoppolo, having to free up that roster spot to add Garoppolo to the roster. They get rid of one of their quarterbacks in Brian Hoyer. Billy Ho's on the streets. He's going to go home. It makes perfect sense. Knows this Patriots football team, knows how they operate. The playbook probably hasn't changed that much since the last time he was there in like 2007 and 8. And so he'll come back in there. It'll be like he never left, and he doesn't have to play. Brady's going to stay healthy. He's going to be out there. You just get to collect a check. What's there not to like there if you're Billy Ho? Go home, be a part of a winning team, and you're going to get a check. Sounds good to me. Meanwhile, the 49ers, I think what they saw here in Jimmy Garoppolo was an opportunity to get a young quarterback that is going into his 4th year in the league at age 24, going into 25. I mean, this guy is relatively young. He's very inexpensive, even though he's on the last year of his deal. They're going to have to pay him Mike Glennon money. They're not going to have to pay him Kirk Cousins money. So they're going to save money there by extending this guy a deal. They get to test drive him in the 2017 season just to know what they're getting, and he can get comfortable with this offense. So it's a win-win for them. You only give up a 2nd-round pick. You don't have to spend your 1st overall or 2nd overall pick, which you're going to have, which will allow you to bolster your football team even more so. It's a great trade for the Niners. It's an understandable trade for the Patriots. And it's a win-win, really, for both teams involved, because the Patriots were going to lose Garoppolo and get nothing. They get a 2nd-round pick, which is an extension of the 1st-rounder in 2018 from the 49ers. And the Niners get their franchise QB, and they don't have to spend the 1st or 2nd overall pick in the draft. They can spend that elsewhere, whether it be a big-time wide receiver or it be a big-time running back or Saquon Barkley. Could you imagine getting a Saquon Barkley to go along with Garoppolo, and all of a sudden you've transformed this offense overnight? I mean, the possibilities are endless, because you know Kyle Shanahan wants to run the football. You get a dynamic back like Saquon Barkley, and all of a sudden your team is totally different. So you look at what the 49ers effectively did is they saved themselves cap space. They got a franchise quarterback, and they freed up that 1st-round pick, which is going to be a very high draft choice, to do whatever it is they want to do with it. It is a great, shrewd move. I told you, I've loved just about every single thing Kyle and John Lynch have done since coming in and revamping this entire, not roster, organization in San Francisco. This is another shrewd move on the part of Lynch and company in San Francisco. You go to the next move, and this was a big one as well, because now what this says to me, what this move says to me, and remember, there was a report out there that 2 teams reached out to Heavens to Megatron. I have really missed doing that. 2 teams reached out to Calvin Johnson to gauge his interest in coming back, and gauge the Detroit Lions' interest in trading over his rights if he were to agree to come back. We later found out who those 2 teams were. The Jacksonville Jaguars, who are in the midst of a playoff race and a divisional race in the AFC South, and the Philadelphia Eagles, for all intents and purposes, the best team in the league, and probably going to run away with the NFC East if they can take care of business versus the Dallas Cowboys. But the fact that the Eagles inquired about Megatron, the fact that the Eagles go out, and I've been talking about this, and Eagles fans have dismissed me all season long. I said, I don't think this Eagles organization believes that Blunt, okay, that Blunt, LeGarrette Blunt, fits what they do offensively. You see they've been giving more carries to Corey Clement, before the injury. They featured Darren Sproles. Before he got injured, they were giving more touches to Smallwood. So they tried their best to not put Blunt in the game. Really, they did. But guys kept getting injured, and they had to go elsewhere, and they always found themselves coming back to Blunt. Blunt is slow. He's not as dynamic. He's not a home run hitter. They can do better at running back. And I told you that. I said he doesn't fit what they want to do. Lo and behold, the Eagles trade for Ajayi. Now, I want to take the Dolphins angle to this before I get to the Eagles and what this means for me with the Philadelphia Eagles moving forward. Adam Gase is a G, first and foremost, okay? When Adam Gase speaks, I listen. I don't know about you, but I listen. When Adam Gase speaks, I listen because the mannerisms on the sideline, the faces that he makes when these guys F up during the course of the game, priceless. Says everything without saying anything. And after the game was over, in that debacle on Thursday night versus the Ravens, he said, our running backs have to be better. They can't try to hit a home run on every single play, okay? You got to run it up in there, and you got to get what's there. You can't try to hit a home run on every effing play. And I looked at Adam Gase, and I said, bro, that's how you feel? He said, you're damn right that's how I feel. So I said, wow, he's not really happy with Ajayi right now. To the point that they trade his ass away for a 4th-round pick, which blew my mind. But it shouldn't have because Adam Gase told me he wasn't happy with Ajayi. So Ajayi, Adam Gase, he's a G, okay? In any event, Ajayi fits more of what the Eagles are looking for. He's a slasher. He can be powerful inside, in between the tackles. But if he gets a seam, he's a guy that can take it the distance. He can go much faster than slow. He can catch it out of the backfield. He's everything that Doug Peterson and that Eagles offensive group is looking for out of the backfield. They don't have a back currently that can do it all. Blunt is that hammer, the guy that they like to give it to in goal-to-go and short yardage situations. But he's not a great pass catcher. You look at some of the other guys on their team, you like them as slashers, guys that may be able to get outside the tackles, maybe catch it a little bit, but you don't really feel comfortable giving it to them in between the tackles necessarily. And even if they do get it between the tackles, you don't think that they can hurt the other team by making them pay with the 72-yard touchdown run. Well, Ajayi gives you all of that and then some. And so I think the Eagles were looking for a complete back. You get that in Ajayi. And what this says to me from the Eagles standpoint is, and we're pushing all our chips to the middle of the table. We see the writing on the wall here. We got a shot. The NFC has never been this wide open before with no Aaron Rodgers, with the Falcons struggling, with the Panthers struggling, with the Vikings trying to figure out who the hell is going to play quarterback for them. We look around the landscape of the NFC and we say, God damn it, we're the best. And so if we push all our chips into the middle of the table right now, we might be able to do something special, something that the Eagles have never been able to do. Call themselves Super Bowl champions. And so I feel like the Eagles, they reached out to Megatron. They trade for Ajayi. They may not even be done yet. There's still another hour to go. This Eagles team thinks they can win it all this season. That's what this says to me. Even though Ajayi will be around for at least another year after this season, they feel like they can win right now. And that's exactly what they're looking to do. And I cannot blame the Philadelphia Eagles. When you got a chance to get a chip, you do whatever it takes to get a chip, and you deal with the fallout and ramifications later. Like the Ravens, when they pushed all their chips to the middle of the table in 2012, won the Super Bowl, and the fallout of that was epic. A lot of players had to be cut loose because of the cap situation. But what they did was they did something that most NFL teams would die to do. They won a Super Bowl. Eagles looking to do the exact same thing. They're not done, potentially. They're looking for left tackle help. They're looking for offensive line help. They're not done. Eagles could make another move, and it would not shock me because they've been ultra aggressive. This offseason and into the season, this Eagles team looking to do big things in 2017. You go to the next, and now we're done with the actual trades themselves. And if you're on Twitter, or you are out there watching this video live and you want to comment, use the hashtag LouieTLive. I will read your comment on the air. If you're on Twitter and you want to jump the line, Twitter is the way to do that. and I've got Twitter available. I've got it out. I'm ready to lock and load, but we're going to run through these quickly. So these are some situations that I think could arise. And so I want to start in Miami. We were just there. Why not stay there? Juice is a guy that I almost did a Redskin video asking the Redskin faithful, hey, what do you think about the Redskins trading for Jarvis Landry? He's an interesting guy because the Redskins, and I said this in one of my videos about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I said, the Redskins are missing a tough guy at receiver, a la Pierre Garçon. They're missing a chain mover, a guy that on 3rd and 4, he's going to out-muscle a DB, catch the football, take a shot, get up, and signal first down, and he's going to move the chains. On 3rd and 6, he's going to catch a 4-yard pass, drag a defensive back for 2 yards, get the first down, get up, go crazy, signal first down. That's Juice. That's what the Redskins are missing. When they let Pierre Garçon go, they let the toughness go in their offense. Juice is a guy that I think could replace that. And so I was going to ask the Redskin faithful, on Saturday night, what do you think about trading for Juice? And apparently he's available. Now, the Dolphins have come out and said he's not available. He's not going anywhere. They've told him because he actually had an Instagram post earlier in the day saying, hey, it's not about where you are. It's about where you might be going or something to that effect. And so he knew the writing was on the wall, but the Dolphins then came out and said, hey, bro, you're not going nowhere. Which, if you're the Dolphins, you'd be smart to keep him because I told you, I think he's the heart and soul of that offense. And Kenny Stills is the oomph in that offense, and they'd love to see Devontae Parker emerge and become the big playmaker offensively. But Juice, to me, is the quintessential chain mover in this league, yards after the catch, tough guy at the receiver position. I'd love to have him in Washington. There are a ton of teams that would love to have a guy like Jarvis Landry, and I could think of a number of teams that are trying to make a playoff push that would love to have a Jarvis Landry on their roster. Now, the kicker with him is he's on the last year of his deal, so you're going to have to either if you're going to trade for him, you got to know that you can re-sign him. You're not trading away assets to get a guy like Jarvis Landry, only to let him walk in the offseason. So I'll be interested to see if the Dolphins are a team of their word and don't trade him, or if they do get a deal that knocks their socks off and says, you know what, hey, Jarvis, it's been real, but peace. We'll see what happens, but I think the Redskins are out of the Jarvis Landry sweepstakes just from the standpoint of there's so many injuries. There's no reason to give up assets to get a guy that can help you when you can't help yourself because you're not healthy enough to win ball games. So before all of the injuries took effect, I thought Jarvis Landry would be a guy on the Redskins' radar if he was available just because of what he brings to the table. And it's exactly what the Redskins could use right now. But I tell you what, Jarvis Landry, an interesting player that is out there dangling around for any team that is wide receiver needy. That's the guy that I would be looking to get. There are also more wide receivers available as we move on to Indianapolis. The 2 receivers you see before you are reportedly on the block. Now, I'm going to start with the Indianapolis Colts side of things and their angle. If I'm the Colts, I'm telling you right now, you're overreacting to Andrew Luck's injury. You need to chillax. Now, Eugene Hilton has showed up a ton this year. And I've already explained to you, when T.Y. Hilton is balling and the guy that we've seen go over 1,000 yards and well over 1,200 yards the last couple of seasons, the guy that led the league in receiving yards just a season ago, when he's that guy, he's T.Y. Hilton. He's T.Y. T.Y. But when he's tripping, when he's 1 catch for 11 yards, when he's 2 catches for 24 yards, when he's 4 catches for 42 yards, he's Eugene Hilton. He's been Eugene a ton this year, not T.Y. And so they're starting to wonder, do we have the right guy? Did we give an extension to the right guy? Yeah, you're fine. Because when Andrew Luck is out there, this guy's a beast. So I wouldn't overreact to no Andrew Luck and T.Y. Hilton's, or excuse me, Eugene Hilton's struggles. However, the guy on your right, that guy being Dante Moncrief, he's been a big disappointment. I've been waiting for rookie season Dante Moncrief to show up. I don't know if he's coming back. And maybe a change of scenery would do him some good. The guy can play football. He's very talented, but he's struggling this season. And he struggled last year, and he dealt with some injuries last year. He's healthy this year. He dealt with some injuries earlier in the season. He's healthy. He's not producing. If someone calls and offers you a 3rd or a 4th round, hell, if someone offers you a 4th round pick for Moncrief, I think you might be inclined to take it if you're the Indianapolis Colts and just move on from him. Look, you don't have a ton of targets out there. I get it. But I think this upcoming draft will be a nice draft for you to go ahead and say, all right, let's start rebuilding our skill positions, tight end, wide receiver, things of that nature. I think you could get something from Moncrief and flip him. Why not? I think he's going to be a free agent at the end of the year anyway. Why not get something for him on the way out? So I don't have a problem with you trading away Moncrief. I would not, however, trade away T.Y. Hilton. He's too good of an asset, too big of a playmaker in this league when he's right. He's too good of a playmaker. The one thing you can't teach in this league is speed. He's got it in spades. And when he wins big. I wouldn't get rid of T.Y. Hilton. Don't overreact to Andrew Luck's injury and the fallout from that guy struggling at the receiver position. If there's one of these guys that should be available, it'd be Moncrief. For me, if I'm the Colts, it wouldn't be Hilton. But what would it take to get a guy like T.Y. Hilton up from under the Indianapolis Colts? You got to think nothing less than a 2. If I'm the Colts, I need a 2, or I'm not giving you T.Y. Hilton. Simple as that. I just signed him to a new deal. I feel good about him. I'm not giving him away for free. You want him, you got to come and you got to take him from me. And I need a second-round pick, or I need a third and a really good player, and maybe we can talk. But that's just me if you're trying to come and get T.Y. Hilton from me. But we move on to more rumors. You see this guy? You remember this guy a couple of years ago? Went to Philadelphia, was a mess because he should have been still in Dallas, but they didn't re-sign him. Reportedly, the Cowboys are interested in making a move because of the suspension to Ezekiel Elliott. Gonna miss the next 6 games. They may call up their old buddy, DeMarco Murray, in the Tennessee Titans and see if they can get something done. Now, here's the interesting angle here. The Titans, much like a basketball team with some young players that they want to get on the court, they're trying to get more, and the basketball analogy would be trying to get more minutes for your young player. The Titans are trying to get more snaps for Derrick Henry. It's tough to do when you still got a good DeMarco Murray ahead of him who's running the football very effectively. The way to get more minutes or more snaps for Derrick Henry, a guy that you really like, that you think could be a star in this league, is to move DeMarco Murray. Now, do you want to do that if you're the Tennessee Titans? You've got a good thing going. The best attribute of your football team is your ability to run the football. You take away one of your studs in the backfield and all of a sudden it doesn't look the same. Do you want to mess with that, knowing that Marcus Mariota at any point, at the drop of a hat, can get injured? And now that once dominant run game is just left with Derrick Henry. Are you willing to risk that? You're right in the midst of a playoff push. You're right in the midst of trying to win the division. Are you really willing to tamper with that just to get some compensation and get Derrick Henry some more snaps? I don't know. I don't know how the Titans view the situation, but I do know the Cowboys are thirsty for someone to come in and carry the load while Ezekiel Elliott is suspended for the next 6, because he is a huge part of what they do. He just rushed for 150 yards with the Redskins, and they needed every single one of those yards to win that football game. And so they know the importance of having Ezekiel Elliott on that offense. It changes because they're not good defensively, and they know this. They need to be able to run the football. McFadden is unreliable. Alfred Morris, he's all right, but he's not real. They understand they need to go out and get someone. All right? Could that guy be DeMarco Murray? Could there be a reunion in the works? I don't know. There's another guy that could potentially fill that void for them out in Dallas. And it's this guy here, Carlos Hyde, who is falling out of favor in San Francisco, whether it's injuries or it's fumbles or it's just the fact that I don't know if this organization, this new regime, really loves Carlos Hyde. They like Matt Breida a lot, all right? They like some of the young guys, Mostert. They like some of these younger backs. They're giving them a lot more carries and touches and play. Now, again, Hyde has been injured often throughout his San Francisco 49ers career. He's been banged up this season. So you can understand the reduced amount of touches, but He's also been upset at times about his lack of touches in San Francisco. And I think Kyle Shanahan is getting to the point. And you know, if you know the Shanahans, like I know the Shanahans, you get in their doghouse and you're buried underneath the doghouse, and it's tough for you to get out. Ask Roddy White in Atlanta what it's like to get into that Shanahan doghouse. It's not pretty, and it's hard to get out. If Hyde is in that doghouse or heading towards that doghouse, I could easily see a trade happening. He's a very talented football player. Again, health is always the issue with Hyde, but that could be another guy on the block for a team looking for an upgrade at the running back position, a la the Cowboys with this Zeke Elliott situation. You never know. Those two were once teammates at Ohio State. They could reunite in Big D. That's another option. If DeMarco Murray's price in Tennessee is a little too steep, maybe Murray, you can get him for a lot cheaper in San Francisco and get similar results out of the running back position. If you're the Dallas Cowboys, we shall see. But another guy that is reportedly on the block, and New England may not be done making moves, is Malcolm Butler. Remember, he hasn't played that well this season, and I think a lot of his poor play can be directly attributed to the offseason. Sometimes we don't think about how these guys are affected mentally because of some of the things that go on during the offseason. So if you remember, the Patriots didn't elect to pay him. Instead, went out and got Stephon Gilmore and gave Stephon Gilmore Malcolm Butler's money. So Malcolm Butler said, damn, it's like that? I don't want to be here anymore. They said, cool, go find yourself a trade partner and we'll get rid of you. And so he goes to New Orleans, has a great sit down with the Saints. Everything seems like it's working out. Looks like he's going to be off to New Orleans in a jiffy. And all of a sudden, it falls through and he's back in New England. But he's not the number one corner anymore. He's not the guy they rely on anymore. That guy is Stephon Gilmore, who got your money. So now he's looking around like, this is some bullshit. I don't want to be here. And I'm not the number one guy, and I didn't get paid. So now he's the number two guy. He didn't get his money, and he's looking around like, man, this is some BS. So then his play starts to suffer. Teams start attacking him more because they don't want to go after Gilmore, so they go after Malcolm Butler. And mentally, it affected him. I liken it to Bashaud Breeland in D.C. last year. He thought he was going to be the number one guy for the Redskins, and then the Redskins just have Josh Norman fall into their lap. They go out, they spend the money, make him one of the highest paid players defensively, make him the highest paid corner in the league. And Bashaud Breeland took offense to that. He said, damn, I was supposed to be the guy. I was supposed to be the number one corner, the guy that you were relying on to shut down Antonio Brown, to go up against A.J. Green, to go up against Des Bryant. I was supposed to be that guy, and now you bring in Josh Norman to fill that void? Damn, I'm feeling some type of way. I'm in my feelings. I'm in my pocket right now. He didn't have a good season last year. And he said, I let that affect me. Malcolm Butler has already come out and said, hey, I'm letting you know right now, mentally, I wasn't where I needed to be when this season got underway. I wasn't where I needed to be because of the whole Stephon Gilmore situation. Because I thought I was going to be in New Orleans, and I ended up back in New England. And it just messed with me mentally. And I think his play has been affected. I think the Patriots are ready to move on. I think Butler himself is ready to move on. And it would not shock me that in these last 30 minutes or so, we see a trade with, just making sure nothing else has happened. If we see a trade with Malcolm Butler, I don't foresee it happening just because the Patriots defensively have already been shaky. You move Malcolm Butler, and what's to come of that secondary that is already sketchy at best? And Stephon Gilmore has been dealing with injuries. Butler's the best you got right now. I don't see it happening, but you never know. The Patriot way, they're always one step ahead of everyone else. While everybody else is playing checkers, they're usually playing chess. It would not shock me if Malcolm Butler is moved today, but I don't think it's going to happen. In any event, I'm going to turn it over to you guys. I want to hear from you guys. I want you guys to tell me, what do you think? What are some intriguing trades? What do you think about the trades that have already been made? Use the hashtag LouieTLive. I'm opening up Twitter. If you want to comment on Twitter, use the hashtag LouieTLive. I'll read it off of Twitter. I'm also going to get to the comment section if anybody's out there and see what you guys have to say. So let's take to the discussions and see what you guys have to say. Andrew Kim says, Eagles stole Ajayi. Dolphins are in shambles on offense other than receivers. I feel like Adam Gase was really upset with the running back position, mainly Jay Ajayi, for trying to bounce everything, for trying to hit home runs on every run, and not just putting them in better positions on third downs and with his runs on first and second down. When there's 4 or 5 there to be had and he's trying to bounce it and it ends up going for 1 or 2. There are a number of plays where he runs into the back of his offensive lineman because he thinks he can bounce it outside, and all of a sudden, there were some critical 3rd and 1s and situations like that where he could have just put his head down, got the first down, and moved the sticks. Instead, he wants to take a first down run, a first down carry, and turn it into a home run carry, and it cost him, and I think he was getting frustrated at that. So I think they think they're fine. So we'll see what happens there. There's a lot going on in Miami right now. We'll see how they're able to overcome all the situations that they have going on right now. Ed says, the Eagles stole Jay Ajayi for a bag of chips. That's that Dolphin shit. I feel like they think they got good compensation for him. What was Jay Ajayi when they got him? A 3rd or a 4th round selection? So it's not like they traded away a 1st round guy for a 4th round pick. I don't feel like the Eagles got him for a bag of chips. I feel like the Eagles got him for a bag of chips in a juice box. At least they get to wash the chips down their throat. You know what I mean? They're not left with a dry mouth like, damn, I sure could use a cold beverage. At least they gave him a juice box too. So you got to feel okay about the trade if you're the Dolphins. You feel great if you're the Eagles for what you were able to do here. 4th round pick, not a lot for a quality NFL starting back. But again, in this league, you can get a quality starting NFL running back in the 5th round, in the 6th round. I mean, the 3rd round. Look at the Chiefs and Kareem Hunt. You don't have to spend a top 5 pick. It'd be great if you can get an Ezekiel Elliott. It would be great if you can get a Saquon Barkley. It'd be great if you can get a Leonard Fournette. But you don't have to have one of those guys to have an effective running game. You know, it's nice to get a Todd Gurley. You normally have to get those guys in the top 10, but you can get away with a Kareem Hunt and be just fine. And so we'll see what happens. Reese says, not used to this much activity around trade deadlines, Lou. I think it's fun. I told you at the top of the show, this is not what we're accustomed to. We're not accustomed to the NFL trade deadline mirroring the NBA and MLB trade deadlines where there's plenty of activity to chew on during their trade deadlines. This one is actually probably the most activity we've seen. There still may be more yet to come. There may not be anything, but just the fact that we've got this much activity, this much rumors floating around, it's a lot of fun to talk about for sure. Andrew Kim says, Finn say they want a 1st round pick for Landry. LOL. They're not getting that. I don't even think they spent a 1st round pick to get him and draft him. I think they spent a 2nd round pick on Jarvis Landry. There's no way they're getting a 1st round pick for him. If I'm them, I'm talking reckless too. But at some point, you got to think to yourself, are we going to be able to re-sign him? You just gave Kenny Stills big money. Are you going to be able to re-sign Jarvis Landry? If you are, then you can talk that talk. But if you're not, you better get something for him while you can. He says they're not getting that. Likely he's staying put. I find it interesting that they trade Ajayi for peanuts and they want a lot for Landry because they value him more. Landry was more valuable to their team than Ajayi. I've already said, if they could just run the football, it doesn't have to be Ajayi necessarily. If they put in the next guy, that next guy may be the back from Alabama that I like a lot, and maybe they think he can come in and really do some good things for them. Kenyon Drake. If they stick him in there and he runs the rock, and he's able to run for 106 yards, they just need the run game to be effective. It doesn't have to necessarily be Ajayi. With Jarvis Landry, they need Jarvis Landry to be effective. It can't be that Leonte Carew catches 5 passes. They need Jarvis Landry to catch 5 or 7 balls because he gives them energy. He gives them life. So Jarvis Landry is a guy that I believe is worth a lot to the Dolphins. A lot more than Ajayi is to them because you can find a back anywhere. You can't find receivers just anywhere, especially with the skill set of a Jarvis Landry that brings that toughness, that attitude, yards after catch. He does a lot of things low-key for that Dolphins football team, so I understand why they value him so high. Patrick A. says, I don't know where it's happening, but Russell Wilson is crying tears of joy. I bet he is. I actually saw that GIF from when they won the playoff game versus the Packers. Remember that game when they came back, the onside kick, and they ended up winning the game in the playoffs? to go to the NFC Championship game. Or was that the NFC Championship game? I think it was the NFC Championship game. They ended up going to the Super Bowl. Again, they lost, however, to the Patriots that time. And remember, he cried after that game. I actually saw that GIF, so that's actually pretty funny that you bring that up. Reese says, happy Halloween. Same to you, man. He says, are you a Halloween guy? Never really been more of a Christmas guy. I'm a Thanksgiving guy, actually, myself, because I'm a family guy. And Thanksgiving to me is when all the family gets around. We talk about what we're thankful for. It's just a really great time. I just love this time in general. Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas on the horizon. It doesn't get much better than this. To me, the fall is the best time of the year. You get football, playoff baseball, basketball returns. Then you get all the holidays, all the time off of work. It doesn't get much better than this. So I just love this time of the year. Brandon Sullivan says, our running backs are a mess. I hated the Lacey signing. Huge fan of JD. I think he's going to be a good backup, third and long guy. Yeah, you could use an upgrade at the running back position. Carlos Hyde, like I mentioned, is out there. Frank Gore, the Colts are dangling him out there. Who the hell wants a 35-year-old Frank Gore? I'm going to tell you right now, though, on the low. Don't tell anybody I told you this. Frank Gore is actually still running the football like a young man. That being said, what the hell are the Colts actually asking for? Because much like the Derrick Henry situation in Tennessee, they got a young man that needs more snaps. And if moving Frank Gore will allow him to get on the field, I am all in favor of moving old man Frank out of the way so that Marlon Mack can get his touches that he deserves in that Colts offense. But I'm going to tell you right now, Frank Gore would be a huge upgrade. And I'm not saying this is what you need to do, but he would be a huge upgrade for the Seattle Seahawks. In that backfield, you have nothing, okay? None of your runners. It's a shame what happened to the 7th round pick out of Oak State because he was playing some good football for you. And Chris Carson, when he got hurt, damn it, man, that was the best you had at the running back position. You're struggling right now. I'm going to tell you right now, old man Gore will come in there and finesse your offensive line and really put in some work, man. He'd make those boys look a lot better than what they are. So I'm not saying, I'm just saying. Reed says, do you think the Legion of Boom will stay together through their whole career? Sherman, Chancellor, and Thomas. I don't see how they can keep all three. Chancellor is the one that you worry about. His deal is coming up the closest. I don't think they just extended him. I don't think. So Chancellor would be the one that I would worry about. They just extended Thomas not too long ago. Sherman's not going anywhere. But they're all getting older. So at some point, maybe one of them bolts. Maybe one of them isn't able to do it anymore. You heard Thomas talking about retirement at one point. So we'll see what happens. Brandon Sullivan says, hearing some fans say Patriots are going after Cousins. Personally, I don't see that happening. But if it does, good luck AFC East for the rest of forever. They're not going after Cousins because Cousins will be on another team at the end of this year, or he'll be with the Redskins for one more year franchise tag-wise, which I didn't think was possible. I thought it was dumb to even think the Redskins would be willing to pay Kirk Cousins $35 million in one season. But I'm hearing the reason why the 49ers went ahead and made the deal for Garoppolo is because they are sold on the fact that the Redskins are not afraid to put the franchise tag on Kirk Cousins if they can't re-sign him before free agency begins in March, which to me is absolutely asinine, but we'll see. SoFlo Sports says, I'm so dead, ha ha ha. A fourth rounder, he, on my, I'm laughing. He says, throw the season away, trade juice, kick in another 5-6 year rebuild. It is a tough situation when you trade away a guy that has been a huge part of your football team over the last season and a half. But let's face it, this Dolphins team feel like they have other guys that can do what Ajayi was doing. And we're going to see just how good these other backs are. All right, we're going to see if Damian Williams and Kenyon Drake can pick up the slack. They think they may have something there. We're going to find out. Was this the right move? Was it the wrong move? We're going to find out. A fourth rounder, I'd have liked to have seen them get a third rounder for him. But you know what? When you don't want a guy anymore, you take what you can get for him. A fourth round pick, we'll see what happens. SoFlo Sports says, that's that Dolphins shit. Obviously. Pepe the YouTuber says, this right here is the epitome of that Dolphin shit. He said, hashtag that Dolphin shit. SoFlo Sports says, I actually hope he balls out on the Eagles because I have him as my running back one. Drafted him 9th. We'll see. So you've got a rooting interest there. So we'll see what happens with him moving forward. Reese says, do you think Calvin Johnson would entertain coming back? It's been a while. You have to think it's that itch that's still there. Time is a healer. I think he's intrigued at least. I don't think he is intrigued with the physicality of the league. He was pretty beat up when he left the game. And he's a family-oriented guy. And he's got a ton of money. He doesn't need it. I do subscribe to the same thing that you do, that there's a competitive itch there, and there was more football left in the tank for him, and he wanted to play for a winning team, and if the Lions agree to trade him away, he'll get that opportunity. If he goes to Philadelphia, say they're 7-1, they're going to make the playoffs, he'll have a chance on a good football team, but I don't think that he wants to come back to play football. I think he's comfortable where he is. His quality of life is at a good spot, man. He was really beat up. I mean, he took some hellacious shots. He had a ton of surgeries. I think he realizes that while I do want to play, I don't want all that comes with football. I don't want to wake up on Monday morning and be sore. I don't want to have thumb surgery after the season or ankle surgery after the season. I don't want to have to deal with all of that. So I think he's in a really good spot, but you never know. Like you said, man, those competitive juices get flowing. You find out you got a chance to do something that you rarely got to do throughout the course of your career, play for a winner, changes things. BE says, Adam Schefter just tweeted out wide receiver Jarvis Landry, 0 chance he gets traded per league source. Not happening. Like I said, the Dolphins came out earlier and said, we're not trading Jarvis Landry. I took them at face value when they said that because Adam Gase hasn't lied to me yet. When he told me that Ajayi was pissing him off without saying his name, like our running backs got to be better, that told me all I needed to know. And when he comes out and says, hey, man, we're not trading Ajayi, I believe him. He hasn't lied to me yet. Isaac Schnook says, seems like the NBA trade deadline. It does. I've talked about that already. Robin Sanders says, ain't any news on the Skins? Nothing. And if the Skins were a better team right now, health-wise, I'd like to think they would have went after a Jarvis Landry or any of these receivers that were out there, Dante Moncrief or T.Y. Hilton. They would have went after somebody, I'd like to think, had they been in a better spot. But because we're so banged up, what is that guy going to do when you got 3 or 4 offensive linemen out? What is Jarvis Landry going to do for your football team if Kirk Cousins doesn't have time to give him the football? Just doesn't make sense at this point with all the injuries. So I don't think the Redskins will be making any moves this trade deadline. Had the trade deadline been 3 weeks ago, I think the Redskins would have been a pretty active football team. But because of the state of the team with all the injuries, I just don't see it happening. Let me check Twitter real quick just to make sure there's no action there, and there isn't. Captain Spartan 04 says, I really hate Ian Rappaport for trying to make everyone believe Marty Bryant could be traded. Ian Rappaport is a guy that I am starting to believe less and less. However, Martavius Bryant is probably available, but you're going to have to give the Steelers a ton. They said they weren't trading him. I take them at face value as well. But if someone throws out there some ridiculous draft pick, you think the Steelers won't look around and say, hey, man, we drafted him with a 3rd round pick. This team is offering us a 2nd round pick. Let's do it. You know, I mean, I don't think anyone's going to give up because of his track record and his history of suspension. And he's 1 more suspension and 1 more failed drug test away from an indefinite suspension. And him being disgruntled and seemingly being a cancer for a brief period of time in that Steelers locker room. No one's giving up a 2nd round draft choice for Martavius Bryant. But I think that's what it would take for the Steelers to even pick up the phone and stay on the phone and listen to you talk. You start talking about a 3rd round pick, they're hanging. Hello? Hello? They're hanging up. So I don't think he's going anywhere, though. Chris Deaver says, love 46, but damn, I was a little excited on the BS on Twitter about Murray, LOL. I was glad I didn't burn his jersey. It could happen. There's still 15 minutes left. I think the Cowboys want to make a move, but again, the price that it's going to take to get a guy like DeMarco Murray, a guy like I actually think you'd be better off trying to go after Carlos Hyde. Probably be able to get him for a lot less than DeMarco Murray. But that being said, we'll see what happens. SoFlo Sports says, I think the entire Miami staff needs to get drug tested as well. Patrick A says, let's see. Patrick Avellino says, you need to do a throwback day, Lou. Bring back the whiteboard in the bookcase. I don't even have the bookcase anymore, but I still have the whiteboard. I don't know if I can find the handy dandy pointer. Yeah, the magic wand took the handy dandy pointer because you guys remember the handy dandy pointer died. But the magic wand, I think he's somewhere around. I'd have to look for him. But yeah, you bring back memories. AK says, heard Vontae Davis trade rumors, but might not happen due to contract. He's got injury concerns too. So if I'm a team, I'm wary of what I would be willing to give up to get a Vontae Davis because he's hit or miss with the injury situation. I mean, he could give you 2 weeks of quality ball and then miss the next 5 weeks due to a hamstring injury. He's been hit or miss with health with the Colts. So I would be pretty cautious in trying to trade for Vontae Davis. I wouldn't trust him. Greg Go Dumb says, if the Skins get Jarvis Landry, we can open up our offense more and get CT more good looks. He would have been a perfect fit for our offense if we were healthy, but we're not, and I just don't see the Redskins forking over the assets or asset that it might take to get a Landry on board, knowing that you have to re-sign him in the offseason, knowing that Kirk Cousins' contract is looming. You just don't have enough certainty to do that because you got to know that Jarvis Landry, if you bring him in, you got to re-sign him. Well, you still got to re-sign Kirk Cousins in the offseason. That's a lot of money tied up into the quarterback position. So we'll see. Brandon Sullivan says, agreed. Carson was looking like a huge steal. I love Hyde. Gore won't be better than Lacey. I was hoping for Forte somehow or Perkins if Gallman and Darkwa are the future. If I'm the Giants, maybe Perkins is available. Forte would definitely be available if I'm the Jets because I think they like the young kid they drafted out of Arkansas State. I also think that you can get by with their Swiss Army knife back. I always forget his name. He's so underrated. In any event, Forte deserves to be on a winner. I'd love to see him go to Seattle. That'd be a great move. But all of those guys you named would be an upgrade. Other than Perkins, I still have my reservations. I liked him coming out of UCLA. Haven't been that impressed with Paul Perkins in the league, but we shall see. But Gore, Forte, Hyde, all of those guys would be an upgrade over what you currently have. I totally agree with you. Let's see what else we have. BE says, do you like the week 9 deadline, or do you think there should be a change when the deadline is? No, it's right in the middle of the season. So I don't have a problem with it. Splits the season right in half. As a team, you know exactly what you need at this point in the season. There's been 8 weeks of football. For some teams, they've already played 8 games. For most, they've played 7. And so you know exactly what you need at this point in the season. So I think this is a good time to have the trade deadline. Mark Block says, how would you feel about Mac Brown being waived? I wouldn't feel any type of way. I really wouldn't, because for all of the hype, we haven't seen this guy in the NFL game, really. The real touches in a meaningful game, at a meaningful point in the game. I wouldn't feel any type of way, really. Andrew Kim says, Gordon might get reinstated tomorrow, but I heard the Browns might try and trade him. Probably won't happen. Browns are missing out on getting some talent. Yeah, I heard that rumor as well. I was going to bring it up, but at this point, who actually cares about him anymore? Like, he's so 3 years ago. Like, the last time we saw him play, he didn't look like himself. So, Josh Gordon, the Josh Gordon that we all have come to know and love, he died like 3 years ago in the NFL, by the NFL standards. The last time I saw him, he looked out of shape. He didn't look like the same guy. The explosiveness, the dynamic ability was gone. I'm off of him. Until he comes back and is back consistently and making plays, I'm off of him. He was dropping the ball, all kinds of nonsense the last time I seen him. Mr. TNA says, Lou, I'm late. Finally, you did it at a good hour for us Romanians. It looks like everything goes wrong for your Skins. Wentz with a running game is scary. Well, we already played Philadelphia 2 times this year, so I could give a damn at this point. I'm just watching how this thing all unfolds for the Eagles. This is the best shot they're going to have to ever win a Super Bowl. And they're trying to take advantage of it. And I can't lie to you. I like what they're doing. They're pushing all their chips to the center of the table and saying, we're going for it. We're going for it right now. And I don't blame them. When will you ever have another season where Aaron Rodgers is out, Tom Brady and the Patriots look really suspect, the Steelers offensively are inept at times? It's wide open. The NFC is as wide open as it's ever been. The AFC is up for grabs. Anybody's guess. All those teams can be beat. The Eagles are in a good spot. Nick Riley says, what's good? I'm hoping my boys can somehow get our hands on Josh Gordon. Good luck with that, man. If you get Josh Gordon, have fun with that. Have fun with that, bro. Mr. TNA says, you need to do some Google Hangouts with other fans like you do with MJ. I suggest, and you've already told me this before a number of times, I generally don't reach out to other YouTubers. Maybe I need to start. But it's a two-way street. I'm pretty sure you've told them the same thing about me. None of them have reached out to me. But I'm not one of those guys, well, they didn't reach out to me, so that's just not how I roll generally. But maybe in the future that's something I'll consider doing, man. Because really, you got to do that sometimes. You got to branch out. It exposes you to another fan base and another group of people that may have never seen your channel before. So, yeah, I mean, it's something that I need to entertain for sure. Joe Sharp says, wide receivers Buffalo could draft for. We'll talk about the draft at a later date and time. It's still not the time to talk about receivers and the draft and all of that. If you're Buffalo and you wanted to make a move, there are receivers out there. I named a few guys out there. If I'm Buffalo, T.Y. Hilton would be a perfect fit in Buffalo because of his ability to beat defenses deep. And you don't currently have a guy that can win deep with speed. But you're not trying to give up the assets that it's going to take to get T.Y. Hilton. So that's what's wrong with the trade deadline, is that all of these trades are like pipe dreams because it takes assets to get these players. And you're not really trying to give up what it's going to take to get these players. I mean, look at Vikings fans. They were pissed when the Vikings gave up a first-round pick to get Sam Bradford. But if you want a starting quarterback, that's what you got to do. You got to give up a big-time assets. And so we can sit here and talk about all these players that are available. What are these teams asking for? Like my man AK said, the Dolphins were asking for a 1 for Jarvis Landry. Who's giving that up for Jarvis Landry? We love Jarvis. We like Jarvis Landry. We do not love him to give up a 1. Maybe a 2 or a 3, but not a 1. So you get the drift. Let me check Twitter real quick. Make sure there's no heat. And there isn't. See what else we got. BE says, not a trade, but Janoris Jenkins has been suspended for violation of team rules. Will miss Sunday's game versus the Rams. That's not a good look. I mean, they were going to beat them anyway. But that's not a good look for him. I saw another player was suspended for a violation of league code of conduct policy or something like that. I can't remember who it was, but somebody else got suspended as well. Nick Riley says, I don't see Landry going anywhere. If they traded Jay for a 4th rounder, I don't see anyone throwing a 1st round at them. I agree. Mr. TNA says, which is the team that you would think will go after Captain Kirk after the Niners went for a QB now? I would think that the Redskins situation with Kirk Cousins is a tricky one. I've heard that the Redskins would use the franchise tag, which is insane. But I talked about this on my show yesterday, so go watch that show. I don't want to kind of harp on it and repeat the same things that I said yesterday because that video is out there for you to watch. But there are a number of teams that we aren't even thinking about right now that could easily need a quarterback at the end of the season. And I'll just throw a couple out there. The Cardinals could use a quarterback with Carson Palmer potentially retiring. So could the Steelers with Ben Roethlisberger potentially hanging it up. I mean, the list goes on and on. Jacksonville, Denver. I mean, there are so many teams. Hell, I've even heard Baltimore with the Flacco situation. Baltimore could be a team. That would mean he would be able to stay in the area, only have to go up the street. You just never know, man. It's so crazy. Robin Sanders says, any Redskins news? Nothing which to speak of at this point. Nothing going on. No Redskins news. There is nothing to talk about. Oh, there is one little Redskins side note. Mac Brown was claimed off of waivers by the Vikings. So if there was anything that you wanted to know about the Redskins, there you go. So we'll see. I'm checking Twitter right now just to make sure that nothing has happened. As we are really starting to near the end of this trade deadline. I don't see anything new right now. Nick Riley says, hey, Lou, chill. Gordon is a baller. Yeah, 3 years ago he was. Absolutely. Dude's been doing nothing but grinding and had extra time to work out and perfect his craft. I got no doubt he will ball. Well, I'll let you give him all of that credit. I'll let you put all your faith in him. I have zero confidence in his ability to get it done. So we'll see what happens. Jay Orion says, are the Dolphins tanking their season? They're 4-3. What the hell are they doing? I told you, they believe in the other backs that they have. This isn't a situation where they're giving up on the season. They think that Kenyon Drake and or Damian Williams can pick up the slack. They're confident that their other backs can get the same amount of yards, if not more, behind that offensive line. They feel like, this is one of my favorite quotes of all time from an NFL or ex-NFL player. They felt like Jay Ajayi left a lot of meat on the bones. All right? And they feel like these other guys can leave just as much meat or eat more of the meat off the bone than Jay Ajayi did when he was with the Dolphins this season. So I don't think they're necessarily throwing away the season or throwing the towel in or anything of the sort. I think they just felt like this guy wasn't getting it done, and if they can get something for him, why not? Ed says, this NFL season has been crazy. And oh yeah, by the way, Ajayi has been a little disgruntled in the locker room. He has had some disagreements with head coach Adam Gase, so that could have played a part in it as well. Joe Sharp says, I meant trade for, sorry. Oh, yeah, there are plenty of players out there. I would have loved to have seen the Bills go after a guy like T.Y. Hilton. I think he would have been a perfect acquisition for the Bills. They currently don't stretch the field very well. He would have been exactly what they needed to go vertical. Tyrod Taylor throws a gorgeous deep ball. I would have loved to have seen them go after a vertical threat like T.Y. Hilton. But again, what would the Colts have been asking for is probably not what the Colts would have or Bills would have wanted to give up. BE says, the Jets are trading for cornerback Rashard Robinson from the 49ers. I haven't seen that, but we'll wait for confirmation on that. But if that is the case, he hasn't played well this season. Rashard Robinson has not played well, but you go to New York and Todd Bowles gets his hands on him, and it could be new, because I really like Rashard Robinson. I thought he played well in his rookie season. Has not followed that up with a great campaign this year. So that'll be an interesting move if, in fact, that is a legit trade. Nick says, told you time and time again, my boys own the NFC this year. Picture the 30 for 30 now when Teddy comes back and we're holding the Super Bowl chip. We're coming. We'll see. Sounds good. We'll see. B says, via Ian Rappaport. That's even all the more reason for me not to believe that report. Mr. TNA says, you need to reach other YouTubers because that will grow this channel more, and some of them are almost as good as when it comes to the NFL. We'll see. I definitely might look into that. Who that Chubbs 504 says, Google Hangout with your fans. That would be something new and cool for us fans. Maybe that's something I do in the future as well. Something to consider. Reby says, thanks for the check-in and keep up with the trade business. I didn't expect a back. I expected an O-lineman. I thought you were going to go after an O-lineman too. It is now 4 o'clock. So give or take the next 5 or 10 minutes. If nothing comes out, because sometimes trades happen right at the deadline, and then they get reported after they become official. So I'll stick around for the next 5 or 10, and then after that, we'll get out of here. I expected you guys to get a lineman for sure, if nothing else. But a back, I think that is a big move, and it screams to me. We're pushing our chips into the center of the table. We're trying to win this year. Alex says, it was DRC that got suspended. Really seems like McAdoo is losing that locker room. I already told you what was going to happen. I told you that once they started losing, that locker room was going to fall the hell apart at the seams. And I also told you that McAdoo was probably going to end up getting fired at the end of the season. He may not even make it to the end of the season. We'll see what happens. He has no control over that football team. Brandon Sullivan says, I believe we still have Mike Davis. I like what I saw from him on 49ers and with us in the preseason. We'll see. Preseason football is totally different than regular season. So, we'll see. Jay Orion says, is Jarvis Landry a top 10 receiver in the league? No, he's not a top 10, but he's probably in the top. He's definitely in the top 20. But he's not in the top 10 in the league at receiver position, but he's a damn good receiver. Top 20, top 15. He's definitely top 20. Might even be top 15. He's not top 10. Nick Riley says, I say the Colts are a sleeper team to sign Kirk, especially if Andrew can't come back from the injury. You've got to assume that he'll be able to come back at some point. Not this season, but definitely next. I don't see the Colts being a team on the radar. Mr. TNA says, Ballard needs to start going for O-line no matter the price, because if he doesn't, 2 or 3 monsters, he will get fired in 2 years. Luck will continue to get injured. Too many hits until now. So Alex is reporting the same thing that my man B.E. told me that Ian Rappaport reported, which is Jets are trading for cornerback Rashard Robinson. Makes a lot of sense. Like I said, the Jets, we saw them get torched versus the Atlanta Falcons on the opposite side of Mo Claiborne. They had another guy over there, I think his name was Roberts, getting his ass ate up. Of course, it was Julio! So, that's understandable, but still, teams are going after the other guy opposite of Mo Claiborne. They need help at the cornerback position, and Rashard Robinson's a young cornerback that struggled this season, that has the potential to resurrect his career in New York under Todd Bowles and that aggressive Jets defensive scheme. Captain Spartan 04 says, just a bunch as usual at trade deadline. At least we had something happen. And just the thought of the moves that did happen and then the ones that could potentially happen gave us a lot to talk about for sure. Brandon Sullivan says, also Perkins is the only rookie to increase their yards per game for 7 straight weeks, I believe. He had a 4.7 yard per carry last year. Slumping this year, however. I agree with that. And he's banged up, and the Giants' offensive line has been just a sieve this season. So he's definitely seen his touches decrease with the injuries and the offensive line being bad and just a lot of nonsense going on. So we'll see. There you go. Dylan Graham. Jeremy Curley was the other one that got suspended. That's who I was thinking of. Thank you, Dylan. Jeremy Curley was suspended by the league as well today. So, I saw that. I didn't see the one about DRC. But nonetheless, Mr. TNA says, it will be funny seeing Niners fans say that they have a QB. No team trades a QB if he's damn good for a second-round pick, even having Brady. I have to disagree with you there. Look. The Patriots wanted to re-sign Jimmy Garoppolo. It was Garoppolo that said, nope, I don't want to be here because Brady's not going anywhere for another 3 or 4 years. I don't want to Aaron Rodgers this thing and sit behind a legend and wait for the legend to say, all right, I'm done. And that could be 4 more years for Brady. Who knows? He says, I'm right now in the prime of my NFL career. Matter of fact, he's not even hit his prime yet. He's still got 3 or 4 more years before he hits his prime. He's a young quarterback that thinks he can play in this league. He wants his opportunity. And so the Patriots realized he was going to move on. They couldn't franchise him. They couldn't hold on to him in the offseason. They were going to lose him, and they knew it. So instead of losing him for nothing, they get something. Brandon Sullivan says, apparently Rappaport is saying the Eagles got Megatron's rights. I don't believe that. I'll have to sit down and analyze that one before I believe that one. Mr. TNA says, do the Cowboys have a chance if Zeke gets suspended for 6 weeks? Depends on how their opponents play. I think it's really going to affect them. Like, they got the Chiefs this week. They got the Falcons after that. Their schedule is really about to ratchet up. They got the Eagles a couple of times. They're going to miss him dearly if he's gone. And he's going to appeal, I think, again. If he doesn't appeal and they actually have him out for 6 weeks, that's going to really hurt them big time. If I were the Cowboys, I would have let him sit out the first 6 weeks and just said to be done with it, to hell with it. And he would have been back already. They probably would have had the same damn record that they have now. He would have been back already for that Redskins game that just passed, and they would have been able to go on with their season. And, you know, hindsight is 20/20 though. So, Mr. TNA says, do you think the Vikings will go after a running back? No. That's why they went out and they got Latavius Murray in the offseason. They got the secret weapon, Jerick McKinnon. They're fine at the running back position. Now, if they were to incur another injury, then they would have a problem. But right now, they're fine at the running back position. And they just claimed Mac Brown off of waivers from the Redskins. So they're fine at running back. They don't need to do anything there. Jabril A says, T.Y. would have been good for the Cowboys. But it would have took a lot. You don't need them. You've got a ton of receivers. Cole Beasley, the young kid out of North Carolina, Terrence Williams, Des Bryant. You didn't need to add another receiver to that mix. It would have been overkill. Cowboys could have used some more defensive help before they would have went and got a back before they got another receiver. Nick Riley says, ask any girl, a minute is a long time. A lot can be happy in the next seconds with trades. Hey, go ahead, man. Mr. TNA says, who do you want for your skins? Who do you want your skins to go for? I wanted them to go get Landry, but after all the injuries, I'm cool with them not doing anything. I mean, at this point, nobody can save the Redskins. We got too many injuries. So, BE says, via Adam Schefter, Janoris Jenkins is suspended indefinitely. Okay. That I can believe if it came from Shefty. Brandon Sullivan says, never mind, looks like someone got fooled on the Megatron. I didn't believe that anyway. That would have been already hitting my phone. That would have already been something that would have already come out. And the fact that I haven't heard anything, I didn't think that was legit. And so that's it for the comments, man. Appreciate you guys joining me on the program. I'll go ahead and glide to the side. It's time to go trick-or-treating, basically. So I'll be back later on for the Redskins Report live. And a lot to discuss there with the Redskin faithful. But this was a very active trade deadline. A lot of intriguing ifs, buts, maybes. But at the end of the day, most of the players that we thought could be on the move ended up staying put. And so still some big trades taking place. Jimmy Garoppolo to the 49ers, Jay Ajayi to the Eagles, and Dwayne Brown to the Seahawks among the big trades to headline the 2017 NFL trade deadline. That's going to do it for your man Louie T here on the Louie T Network. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here on the Louie T Network. Come back and join me as I continue to break down anything and everything in the National Football League. I'll see you guys later on tonight for the Redskins Report Live. I'll see you guys on Wednesday for winners and losers. And, of course, I'll see you on Thursday. Bills, Jets, Thursday Night Football, AFC East, family business. All of that and then some. I'll see you guys down the road whenever I see you. I'll see you. See you in a bit. Enjoy your Halloween. Trick or treat. Bring me something good to eat.